welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. It's our last show of the year. Got a great show for you. We're going to kind of do a year in review. I'm Mike Migliori. We've got with us Smoking Jim Frazier, Mike Siegel, and Al Levine, Talking Machine. Like we do every week, we're going to start off with what's on your mind. And Jim, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Magic Mike. One thing that's on my mind is you see the hat Wisconsin. Everybody, you got to watch the game. My prediction, Wisconsin over Oregon. Biggest upset of the bowl season. You'll see the true Heisman Trophy winner, Monty Ball, should have got the Heisman. 38 touchdowns. He'll go well over 40 touchdowns in this game, and a lot more impressive than anything that RG3 did. And I just want to give my top 10 greatest players in NFL history real quick to close out the year. Number 1 greatest player in NFL history, undisputed, Ray Lewis. Number 2, Jim Brown. Number 3, there'll never be another one as great as this one, Brett Favre. Number 4, Gale Sears. Number 5, Jerry Rice. Number 6, Walter Payton. 6A, Jack Tatum. 7, Deion Primetime Sanders. Number 8, John Elway. Number 9, Lawrence Taylor. Number 10, Reggie White. Couple honorable mentions. Mean Joe Green, Dick Butkus, Jack Lambert, Tony Dorsett, Mel Blount, and Dick Night Train Lane. That's your top 10 greatest players in NFL history, Magic.
Yep, all 20 of them. All right, Mike, what's on your mind?
Well, I have a little bit of a different hat. That is a very nice hat, by the way. It's striking. But I
Thank you.
have a hat here, and you may think, whoa, is that a pirate hat? No, it's a Phillies hat, as you can see. I've been wearing this hat for about a couple weeks now, and there's a couple reasons why I'm wearing this hat. I'll tell you about the second one, or the second reason later in the broadcast. But the first is, it's not because I like the Phillies, okay? It's because I love the Pirates. And for the last almost 20 years, we have been stuck in a system that isn't working. The Pirates are losing every year. They're not even getting close to 500 at the end of the year. I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm just asking for a team that can compete. Every time I go down to watch a Pirate game, they always lose. They usually are winning in the early stages of the game, and then towards the end, they no doubt lose the game. Their pitching is getting better, no doubt, but we do need some better hitters. We need a home run hitter. I would be happy to have one home run hitter, someone that can hit maybe more than 30 home runs a year, get some fans in the stands, and see if we can bring back some real interesting baseball. I want to see the wow factor. I don't want to see people coming in and out of the system. Thank you.
All right, Mike. Well, I guess since you have a Phillies hat there, you might have some idea of who you'd like to see batting for the Pirates?
I would like to see someone that can hit more than 30 home runs a season. Some may say that might be Andrew McCutchen. I don't know if he'll hit 30.
Never in his life.
I think he hit it pretty hard this year, but he didn't get there. But I think if we can get someone that hits over 30 home runs a season, it could create excitement and bring more fans back to the stadium. We're doing well now. The fans are flocking back again this year with new ticket sales. But I think we need some excitement, and that sure would bring me back to the stands.
Howard.
So you're thinking maybe a few years ago when they offered Ryan Howard for a pitcher that we no longer have, the Pirates maybe should have pulled the trigger on that trade?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad idea. Al, what's on your mind?
Well, you got me going on Pirates right now, and I'll go off subject a little bit like I normally
There's a
do.
surprise.
Well, I figured it's a nice end of the year show, and since I have a compadre here with the Pirates, which is one of my pet peeves, I'm a big fan of the Pirates, but not their ownership. I think that baseball, and this may sound silly, but there's a lot of like drug issues in baseball. You have HGH, you have steroids, you have guys rubbing on clear that they think they're vitamins. Then you have guys taking vitamins. And then their head sizes, they grow 4 or 5 times when they're already MVPs. Then you have other guys testifying that they're setting records hitting home runs, but they have creatine in their stall. So, I mean, why don't they make a rule that a team like the Pirates, for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, they have to keep their players, and let them be on HGH, steroids, and all this stuff that nobody knows about. But for some reason, these players, look, you just had an MVP from Milwaukee get in trouble. And he swears he wasn't on it, and he had something called synthetic testosterone. So I don't know what Mike thinks about my plan there. Mike, at the end, probably enjoys this type of comedy, but there is some truth to it. Why don't they try something like that and then see what happens? That's what's on my mind now.
Well, I don't think it's true that people do HGH. My body's been growing for the last few years at an amazing pace, and I haven't done HGH. First, I want to give a shout out to Ollie, who works at the McDonald's in Mount Lebanon. Ollie's the only guy I know that can actually make a McRib sandwich the way it's supposed to be made. He makes great McRib sandwiches. If you want to eat one, go down there. And don't get too fool yourself, McDonald's, because when you quit selling McRib sandwiches this year, I'm going to rip you on the next show. All right. Before I come out here, I watched the news. All right. In the news this week, I don't know, a guy that dressed up as Santa Claus and shot his entire family. A guy that kidnapped a little girl in Maine and used a hacksaw to cut her body up. And I'm sitting here thinking, what's wrong with these people? Everybody knows what this is. Okay? This is a car magnet for the people that don't know what it is. And I live in a world where people will fly airplanes into buildings and kill thousands of people. Where people, like I said, will shoot their entire family, shoot up schools, blow up school buses. Nobody steals these things off of cars. Why is that? Why do people put more respect into one of these than into a human life? Well, there's a new year coming up. In 2012, I think that if you get the feeling that you need to kill a bunch of people, then kill yourself, or you need to kill this person or that person, or you need to drag a girl into a bathroom and rape her, forget all that stuff. Go out to a car and steal one of these instead. Okay? It'll make you feel better to do something so heinous as to steal one of these. Okay? But also remember this. If you take one off of my car, I'll kill you. All right, guys, we're going to do a year in review this year. I guess we'll start with the Steelers. Jim,
This was a family show.
let's talk about the Steelers from beginning to end. They started the year off losing the Super Bowl. What's happened since?
Well, I'm glad that Al knows more about black people than anybody I've ever met. And Mike, you like ribs. Well, Pittsburgh Steelers, like I predicted before the season started, they were going to finish 12-4. My predictions coming true. They had the easiest schedule of any team in the history of the National Football League who played in the Super Bowl the previous year. Pittsburgh Steelers, my prediction is going to be an early out in the playoffs. I think this is Baltimore Ravens year. One, they got the best player in the history of the game in Ray Lewis. And number two, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not been a very good road team all season long, even though they got one of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history in Big Ben Roethlisberger. That's not going to be enough. I think if the Pittsburgh Steelers go into the playoffs as a wild card, it'll be an early exit for the black and gold.
All right, Mike, what did you see for the Steelers this year?
Well, I think it's been a good year. Obviously, after the Super Bowl, it's usually a slump year, and being 11-4, we should look at that as very positive. I tend to agree with Jim. I think it could possibly be an early out this year, wild card, or even if we do have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I just think the teams that are playing well towards the end of the season and are the least hurt, talking about the players, are the ones that go deep. And right now, you're looking at New England. You know, I hate to say that. I really hate to say that, but New England is looking charged up. They're winning games in a row. Baltimore has slid a little bit. We've slid a little bit. We've had some injuries, as has had the Ravens. Anquan Bolden, he'll be out until the playoffs, so this game could be important, the last game of the season. But I think New England could go far, and I think it's going to be a shootout kind of playoffs. I really do, and I think that's what the fans want, and somehow Goodell gets what he wants.
Okay, Al, what do you think?
Well, I was very disappointed with the Super Bowl because of a couple of little plays with some of those passes. Guys were missing interceptions by inches. You had Gay, always a catch in front of Gay, and things like that bothered me. And who knows if Troy was 100% in that game. Yeah. So I mean that was disappointing. So then when we saw this season start out, you know, I had high expectations, and I still feel that they can get there because there's a lot of defenses out there that have issues. New England, Baltimore, they have some good defense, but how do they get scored on like that? I mean, they have some issues out there. Even as great as Ray Lewis is, he's only got a couple years left, and he's playing smart football, not as physical as he was and moving, but he gets in position. And Suggs, he disappears sometimes. There's a great ball player, but on the road, all of a sudden, he plays a little bit different. So I think everybody is suspect when they play on the road. And it looks like we're going to be playing on the road. So, I mean, I had told you a few times before, Jim has some great insights. One of the greatest things meeting both Mike and Jim here is the insights that they do provide. They think differently than me on a lot of things, but I found out we agree on a lot of things also, except for Magic Mike at the end there. He just likes to have this feistiness here out here. Plus, he's smarter than me, so I give kudos to him. My hat goes off.
If I could jump on what you said, what you said about William Gay. You know, no one's talking about William Gay. This guy has been trounced by the media, has been trounced by fans. The guy's been around for a few years now. In the last couple of years, he's had some really atrocious seasons. Everybody was just targeting him. Every quarterback was targeting him. This year, William Gay is playing outstanding football. You have to admit, he is playing smart football. He has a couple of interceptions. And, you know, I see Ike Taylor being targeted sometimes more than he is. So kudos to William Gay. Good for him.
Well, I'd have to ask Jim some of the stats since he looks into this big picture here. And to me, William Gay's improved some of his play. But he has a lot of other guys that have stepped up. Some of these younger guys on the line, they're putting some pressure out there. And we've had a lot of injuries. So LeBeau is a genius back there with how he's playing with these chess pieces there, from Gay to Clark to Keenan Lewis. And, you know, Ike Taylor's he's a pretty good ball player. I mean, he's great all around. And sure, he can't catch the ball, but that's why he's a defensive back. So, I mean, he'd be in the All-Pro game all the time if he caught a few of those interceptions. And you see what happens. But everybody gets beat once in a while. That's the NFL now. Look, you just had Drew Brees set the record that Marino had since '84. We're in a passing league. It's all changed. So that's why I think we do have a chance, since we did go a little off on this, with the Steelers getting in there. Our problem is it's when you peak. And you have a lot of people that are hurt. And you know yourself from watching football, all of you here, that you got to peak at the right time. You have to get injuries, it's sad to say, but you have to get injuries at the right time so you can heal up. And then you can't have guys getting suspended for hits that the NFL makes up, and certain guys get fined a lot, other guys don't. So now you're making people think. And anybody that's played sports like we have knows you have to react, not think about it. So I'm hopeful that we can get a couple guys healthy. Maybe Big Ben can be a little more mobile instead of the punching bag that I saw last time. And, you know, I remain hopeful that maybe we'll get lucky here because the other teams do have some suspect defenses.
Hey, listen, William Gay wouldn't hit a blind Jeffrey Dahmer sprinkling hot sauce on his girlfriend in the middle of the million-man march. This guy's been hitting all year. Ike Taylor takes the top wide receiver on any team. They've been hiding William Gay. But believe me, when Aaron Rodgers cashed his paycheck, a picture of William Gay's in his wallet.
Mike, you didn't realize you set up Smoking Jim on that one big time.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. Remember how,
Here we go.
What was the blueprint to win the New England game? Bump right at the line of scrimmage and man on man. And I think that worked, and I think William Gay played a hell of a game there. I really do.
Well, Aaron Rodgers has 45 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions, and he got a lot more weapons than New England. You take away Wes Walker, we're able to take away the great tight ends. We're able to put pressure on Brady. That ain't going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. He got 4 or 5 great wide receivers. They're going to be targeting William Gay, and it's going to be a fest if we happen to get there. But if we get there, it's a great celebration to go in the Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin will be 1-2 in the Super Bowl appearances.
Well, first off, Ray Lewis wouldn't be the best football player in this room. Okay? There's a certain Penn Hills to Gateway transfer that wasn't too bad a football player himself. And I think Jim's a better player than Ray Lewis, let alone in NFL history. And as far as the Super Bowl, well, it might have been a disappointment for you, Al, but Aaron Rodgers didn't want to see Green Bay win as much as I did. It was a great game for me.
Does anybody have a Steelers
Now,
hat
as
for
far
you?
as the season, again, yeah, it was a year of injuries and now suspensions for the Steelers, taking players out here and there. Probably the biggest loss for the Steelers was Pouncey at center, losing Woodley at linebacker also hurts them a lot. Personally, I'd rather see Charlie Batch than Ben Roethlisberger anyway. But again, they've had their ups and downs this year. Dick LeBeau was a genius against New England. He went to man on man, and then against Baltimore the following week, he went man on man with 92 yards and a minute left, and that didn't work out so well. Why he didn't go to a prevent defense, who could say? But that was obviously that was the way to go at that point. I've never second guessed Dick LeBeau until that game. Also, it's the NFL has more teams than just the Steelers. As far as the AFC this year, I think the two teams that have a chance to go are New England and Baltimore. Maybe New England's defense is a little suspect, but their offense is a machine, and it's hard to put up as many points as you can. As they do to catch up with them. The Steelers beat them the first time around. I don't think it's going to happen again. To be honest, I think the Steelers are in a lot of trouble if they are the number 5 seed, because if they have to go to Denver to play, they're in a lot of trouble there. Their secondary is not that good to begin with. If they have to take Ryan Clark out, now I understand Ryan Clark said that he would play if Tomlin asked him to. If the Steelers ask Ryan Clark to go to Denver and play, they should all go to jail for putting this man's life in jeopardy. A football game is not worth letting this guy die over. As far as the NFC, well, it doesn't matter who the AFC sends, because there's 3 teams in the NFC that will beat anybody they send. Green Bay Packers look like the team to beat, but don't rule out San Francisco or New Orleans. New Orleans has another explosive offense. For New Orleans, it might be tough to go from the Dome and play against Green Bay, if the weather's bad. But San Francisco is another story. Even though San Francisco is a hot weather city, the San Francisco 49ers are built a lot like the Steelers were before they became a passing team. They have a great defense and they have a nice running game, and bad weather would probably hurt Green Bay's offense more than it would San Francisco's offense, and Green Bay has about the same defense that New England Patriots have. San Francisco's got a great defense. So any one of those 3 teams has a good chance to go to the Super Bowl. Any one of those 3 teams will beat any team that the AFC has to send them, whether it's the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Patriots. We talked a little bit about suspensions and head hits and stuff. The NFL's changing a lot. People don't give the same kind of hits that they used to because they're afraid of being fined, with the exception of James Harrison, who gets fined. And but the game has changed a lot, and that leaves it these explosive offenses free to do what they do, where the defense has to kind of hold back a little bit. So anyway, my prediction this year is that the New Orleans Saints will win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Jim?
Wow.
I know you're a Packers guy.
Yeah, the kind of season that Aaron Rodgers is having. Although I agree with you, Magic Mike, that I would not be surprised if San Francisco took Green Bay's heart, like they took the Steelers' heart when the lights went out. They're a very physical team. Max Starks can he can co-sign on that. San Francisco got a great defense. But if Green Bay does go to the Super Bowl, it's a magical year for Aaron Rodgers. But everybody got to realize Aaron Rodgers is a melonhead. He's 1 concussion away from maybe announcing his retirement. He had a few concussions, so they almost put him out. Urlacher, who's a great linebacker, blew up his own linebacker, Miss Aaron Rodgers, the other night ago. I don't know how that happened, but in the AFC, I really believe this is a magical year for the Baltimore Ravens. Now they got to get past Cincinnati, like Mike was saying. They're playing Cincinnati at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's always had pretty good success with them. Cincinnati got a gymnast for wide receiver, Jerome Simpson. So that's going to be a
got a
little
10.
tough. But I really believe that the Baltimore Ravens are one of a few teams in the National Football League that can really line up and beat Green Bay, because this is the ingredients to beat Green Bay. You have to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And when you got Terrell Suggs, who's good for 3 sacks, and he's a different player in the Dome. It's in Indianapolis. It's in the Dome. It's a fast track. Perfect for Terrell Suggs. You look at Reed, the best safety in football, bar none. Reed will get 2 or 3 interceptions. He has that capabilities. And turnovers is what can do Green Bay in. And Ray Lewis is an intimidator, just as Hines Ward. So I think that Baltimore Ravens, this could be a magical year for them. Pittsburgh Steelers know about hardball. They couldn't beat any of the hardballs this year, and maybe Green Bay can't either.
Well, Jim, you brought up Hines Ward, and I guess the big thing right now is that Hines Ward needs 5 more catches to hit 1,000. He says he doesn't want to retire. I can't imagine the Steelers want to keep him. What do you think? Does he get his 5? Does he get his 5 catches and retire? If he doesn't retire, do you think the Steelers will keep him? I say absolutely not. They cut Franco Harris. Seattle is a place where washed-up players go to die. That could be a pretty good place for Hines Ward to show up also. He's been a great player for the Steelers, and you might think sentimentally that hey, they should keep him around. They should make sure he gets his catches, and if he doesn't want to retire, they should let him play again. I think the Rooneys have never ever shown any kind of sentimentalism. They don't mind holding on to a player during spring training up until the point during camp, up until the point where it's the last cut and they have no chance to sign on with another team. They're pretty good for doing that. I don't think they'll keep him around just because he has a nice smile and everybody likes him.
Yeah, he can get 5 catches. He's been Mr. Bubble Screen all year long, so it doesn't take much to get that. But the Steelers are not going to keep a guy at $4.5 million a year to be their 6th wide receiver. So I think Hines Ward is done after this season. No doubt about it.
I think he may have 1 more year with another team, but I think they'll be feeding the ball to him once he gets trying to get his 1,000 catches. So like you said, there might be about 5 bubble screens in a row.
10, because they're going to double team him.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
And Warren Sapp will come running on and cover him. But I wanted to, before I went on, I wanted to give you the second reason for this hat. This girl, a friend of mine, just gave it to me. It didn't fit her, so that's the reason I have this. No other reason.
You're a fickle Pirate fan. I thought you were a true Pirate fan.
I'm having problems with it.
It's not a Pirates hat; it's a Phillies hat.
I know, but he said it represented the Pirates. It was a metaphor.
No more death threats.
On your point of, I lost track of after Mike threw that Philly hat out there again, since we're not really Philly fans here.
Sorry, it's gone.
Are you stepping on it?
Yeah.
Well, I think Green Bay can win the whole thing, is what I think.
Bold prediction now.
Well, I had it last year before I knew you guys.
Go out on the limb, that's where the fruit is.
Well, here's the thing. If it's right and it's
not very
correct,
strong.
I could be controversial, but if it's right, that's the pick you make. And it's right. Green Bay wins it. They'll have their guys healthy. Their defense will hold on enough to maintain. Baltimore could have that spark, but you never know what Flacco is going to do there. Which Flacco shows up. And then Ray Rice, who I love as a running back, what happens when he disappears sometimes? Not just because of his size, but where's the line at in the holes?
Or fumbles.
But he disappears.
They got blindside out there.
Okay.
He's over some holes.
Okay, well, I just wondered what 0 hole, 1 hole, which one was it? He just disappears. But that's another thing. They could get in there, and if they did play their A game, I think they would have a great chance. Because when they played us the first game of the year, they looked like a Super Bowl winner, not just a contender.
Yeah.
Of course, we were the pretender, as Jim would say, and that's part of it there.
How come at Gateway in Monroeville, we can't find a 6'6", 350-pound brother that can slam dunk homeless at 16? Blindside could have played for the Gators, man. We get another championship.
I don't understand it. Maybe it's the recruiting's falling down a little bit. What do you think? There's not enough housing projects in the neighborhood? I've heard about how that works. I haven't heard on the radio show.
We recruit.
I'll be the PR guy. Send me out in the streets, there, Jim. I'll go with you anywhere you want to go.
I think if Baltimore is playing their A game, I think they will go far. I think they are. When Joe Flacco is on top of his game, he can loop those long balls over top of anybody, and they just fall into the receiver's hands. So I think it could be Baltimore, Green Bay, and maybe a tough defense does it again this year. But
this is the year of the offense, though.
This is the year of the offense, and that's what I said earlier. It's going to be tough. I mean, the ratings want a shootout. I mean, the names are there: Rodgers, Brady, Breeze. I mean, it's Roethlisberger.
Well, you mentioned the name Brady.
Not the most likable guy either.
You can't count Brady out in any game that he's in. I mean, I've liked Brady his whole career. I don't like New England, just being a Steeler fan. But
Yeah.
you got to put your hat. There's a Hall of Fame quarterback,
And they're sort of quiet right now.
and he's still putting up some numbers. It's
Yes,
not
he
like
is.
he's just chopped liver and not doing anything.
Yeah.
I guess Dave Wanstead didn't like those bombs from Flacco when he tried to make him a
Nah.
tight end.
No,
Put him on the other end of those.
Delaware was calling him, right? He went to Delaware.
Palco or Flacco? Ooh,
Well, Palco helped us out when we
that
played,
got pretty ugly, didn't it?
right? If he didn't throw a pick or two, we might have lost that game, especially at the end there.
It looks like he's throwing a watermelon when he's throwing that ball. You know what I mean? I mean, that thing just comes out and it's just like floating. It
Mike,
just
we
doesn't
needed
look
you
right.
on this show earlier. Where have you been hiding out at?
Don't ask questions.
Okay.
Well, Jim, first off, if Terry Smith had seen Michael Orr before Sandra Bullock did, he would have played for Gateway, whether he had to come from Missouri or not. So, I mean, that recruiting situation there, I mean, he's the best recruiter I know. I don't know why they didn't pick him up for the Pitt job. I think he would have been a great coach at Pitt. Speaking of Pitt,
Oh, nice segue.
we have to, I guess, move on. University of Pittsburgh made the news often this year, usually not for winning a football game, but for losing a coach. They've gone through, 1, 2, and
4.
now they've got Paul Chryst this year. Paul Chryst, they picked him up from Wisconsin. And Jim, you're right, the Wisconsin-Oregon game I think will be the best bowl game of the season.
Who's Baylor playing?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Paul Chryst was the worst possible hire that the Steelers could have picked
Coach
up.
of Carolina?
Paul Chryst will be here for 1 year if he does a good job, and 3 or 4 years if he does a bad job. If he does a good job, somebody in the Big Ten is going to offer him a job, and he's going to go back, regardless of what Steve Peterson says, yes, no, maybe, wherever he's going to go, because you'd much rather be a head coach in the Big Ten than head coach in the ACC or the Big East. So, again, I think that's a terrible hire. They should have picked either somebody, like Al once said, near the end of their career so that they can finish their time here, or somebody local, one of the local high school coaches. There's some pretty good possibilities there. North Allegheny, Gateway, there's a lot of places, Upper St. Clair, places they could go to pick up a decent football coach. Jim, what do you think of Pitt? Not only the coaching carousel, but the just team in general for this year, and the move from the Big East.
Well, I just like for Pitt, the administration to make up their mind. They didn't want Walt Harris because he threw the ball too much. So you brought in Wanstead, who runs the football. You didn't want Wanstead anymore, so you bring in high-octane Todd Graham. Now you bring in another running coach. So Pitt doesn't know what they want. Pitt joins the Pittsburgh Pirates in the Guinness Book of World Record. Pirates for consecutive losing season. Pitt has, in my count, Pitt had 6 coaches in the last 12 months. Whoever Dave Wanstead won, whoever coached Pitt in the bowl game, that's the second head coach. They had Michael Haywood for a couple of weeks.
Two at the most.
Yeah. Then they got Todd Graham. And now who's ever coaching Pitt in the bowl game? And now they got Chris. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
I'm the only one that didn't coach Pitt.
Well, you better answer your phone, brother. You might be next up.
But it's a shame because Temple used to be in the Big East. They ran Temple out of the Big East. Now Temple would kill Pitt 7 days a week. Temple got a nice program, and Pitt's going the other way. I hate to see them going to the ACC. No more is Wake Forest and Duke the worst team in the ACC.
It's a shame that no coaches really want to approach Penn State or Pitt. It's tough times on both, and not getting off the Pitt subject here, but Penn State. I mean, I look at Tom Bradley as maybe someone who will inherit that job, but I'm wondering if the powers that be really want him in the position. Are they just holding him on just as someone to interview? Do they want him there because they may want to clean the entire house, and people may want them to clean house? So, Penn State and Pitt have tough roads to hoe right now, and especially Penn State to get that name back. But, I would say Bradley would be a good option for Penn State.
I thought Bradley would be a good option for Pitt, and Bradley right now is a great referee for locker room cage fighting.
Yeah, how did that happen? Since we're talking there, how do you get a concussion
and
then a seizure, and then you apologize for starting the fight? So I mean, there's a lot more problems.
What happens in the shower room at Penn State stays in the shower.
Well, no, now that's done.
Not anymore.
They have the FBI. They got the university. They hired an FBI director to guide them through all of this so they can be legal in everything they do.
For the quarterbacks fighting? Or
everything. Everything now. He's supposed to be observing all of that. But getting back to Pitt, this is sort of ironic. They showed a picture on the Post-Gazette, and it showed Todd Graham, and it showed Sun Devil. And it was just so ironic that that's where he went. That's what we think of him. He gave the same speech there, and he's a disgrace. How coaches like that, it shows how contracts don't mean a thing in the NCAA.
Do you really think he's a disgrace? Tempe, Arizona, in the winter, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Well,
if you love the golf, that's where you want to be.
I think Pitt allows this to happen.
Yeah,
I think Pitt
could have put something in the contract.
Since we're on that subject, these schools don't, and Peterson should actually go. It's time for him to go. Look what he did to Nebraska. He set them back.
And he left Pitt to go to Nebraska, don't forget.
Well, it's his alma mater.
He did the same thing that Graham did.
Exactly. So you have two peas in a pod there. So I don't think we need it. We should be looking for an athletic director to change this all up here. That's where it should start at. It should start at the top. Because Jim brings up a great point. You go from a passing offense, running offense, then you get these recruits who are made for those type of offenses. And the defense, they've been pretty good. You got to give them some credit there. They've had some decent defenses, but how long can you come out in the field?
Yeah, they shut down Maine.
Well, I mean, how long can you come out there when your offense is turning the ball over and your tongue's hanging out? You've been out on an 8-minute drive, and then your quarterback gives the ball away in 2 plays.
Has anybody ever seen worse quarterback play than Penn State or Pitt this year?
Wow.
I mean, just watching those games, how hard was it to watch?
Wow, good point.
I mean, I've never
difficult.
Seen it.
I was at a few of Pitt games, and it was difficult.
Both Penn State's quarterbacks. I mean, they just couldn't do anything. It was very hard to watch. It's a shame. Might be good to see a run and gun offense up there, but I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Well, when Urban turned them down, that ended that type of thing.
Yeah, they weren't going to come close to that.
On the upside for Pitt, they did get a verbal agreement from a player who will probably be their best player since Tony Dorsett, from Russell Shell. Agreed to go to Pitt. I have no doubt in my mind he's going somewhere else. But because why would you stay here? Why would you stay in
That
this
quarterback from
situation?
Tennessee's coming there.
But he.
Number 4 in the country.
Pitt running backs have done very
He
well.
might stop here in a flight.
No.
A flight to Ohio State, maybe.
Pitt running backs have done extremely well in the NFL.
Yes, they have.
I mean, they really have. So
2 years and out.
maybe that's what they pitched to them when they're trying to get them on
I'm
the
sure they
program.
did. I'm sure they pitched him the high octane offense that Graham was going to show them.
Yeah.
I don't think. I hope he does come. I hope so, because I think this guy is going to be a great college football player. Unlike Terrell Pryor, I think he probably will win a Heisman Trophy. And I think that whatever team he goes to, he will make much, much better. The kid, we had him on a previous show. He is an outstanding person, an outstanding young man, and a great, great football player. I can't imagine that with what's going on at the University of Pittsburgh right now, that he still could consider that his best option. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does come. But there are a lot of other schools that he could go to. I believe Alabama was recruiting him. Yes. So, again, I hope that he stays. But that isn't one of the upsides for Pitt this year. I think the move from the Big East to the ACC was a huge, huge mistake. The ACC... maybe it's an okay football conference. It's not that much better than the Big East. The Big East, not a good football conference, but you know what? Pitt's not a football school anymore. Pitt's a basketball school. No matter what anybody tries to tell you, Pitt's a basketball school. And the Big East, before all these moves started happening, was the best basketball conference in the country. With leaving the Big East to go to the ACC, they're going to miss their games against Connecticut. They're going to miss playing in Madison Square Garden. And those are two huge recruiting tools that they could use to pick up these players. Going to the ACC, yeah, okay, they're going to get to play Duke and they're going to get to play North Carolina, but they're not going to win those games. And, I mean, they're not going to play in Madison Square Garden anymore. They took a big bite out of their own recruiting. I think that it's a big mistake. And I can imagine Pitt falling back into the middle of the pack as far as a basketball school and still not be a football school in the ACC.
Good point.
Well, again, it's the leadership you have at Pitt. Peterson saves the program and then he destroys it. So how much sense does that make? I'm totally against their move going to the ACC. There's no way they should do it. You should at least stay here because you do lose the recruiting like Mike and Jim and everybody has said. So it's definitely a step backwards.
Yeah, but I think they're looking at the money. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a better known program. The Big East is sort of faltering lately with teams leaving left and right, and Pitt needs a little bit of shot in the arm right now.
And let's give credit where credit is due. I'm not a Peterson fan, but he did a great job in the basketball program, bringing in Ben Howland, with Jamie Dixon is still following the blueprint on how you win. Because of Ben Howland, but and I agree with Magic Mike that if Pitt focused on basketball and devalued football a little bit, they would never have left the Big East. And there's plenty of money in the Big East in basketball. And plus, the girls' basketball team got a 7-footer coming in. I would love to see her in Madison Square Garden.
You'll get to see her at that Pete. Don't you like the Pete? I thought you liked to visit their home there. So.
Pete is a big warehouse. If I wanted to go to Sam's Club, with all, I like.
I'll think of it next time I go there.
I like the Console Energy Center. That's a real arena. The Pittsburgh Penguins did a nice job when they designed that.
And speaking of the Console Energy Center, there's Robert Morris University playing on Friday. They have hockey and everything else. And then I have a cousin who coaches Pitt hockey.
Is Hope going?
My biggest fan. The shout goes out to Hope. My biggest fan and her husband, big fan too, that they'll be at the game. Gary may not make it. He's going to be working. He's in the drilling business, so he may be out of town. But Hope will be at the game. My sister Joy will be at the game. Husbands, my girlfriend will be at the game, and we'll be watching the game. You're more than welcome to come on down.
Will your cousin Stu be there?
Looks like we invited everybody.
There's a sighting. Everybody's welcome down there. The tickets are reasonable. We had, what was the senior athletic director of Robert Morris, Marty Galosi here, so I'm sure we'll see him. We can rub elbows down there. We're trying to drum up the crowd. They'll probably have 5,000, 6,000 people there, and it is a beautiful venue. It'll be the second time I've been there.
It is a beautiful venue, and Pittsburgh Penguins play there.
Yes, sir.
And this has been a strange season for the Penguins, too. Definitely, the year of 2011 covers not only one season, but half of one season, half of another. The last season, the Penguins, they lost to Tampa Bay in the playoffs, but they made a very nice run considering that Sidney Crosby and Jenny Malkin, their two best players, were not playing. The Penguins still got into the playoffs. They took Tampa Bay to a seventh game, and they lost there. But they made a pretty good showing considering that the players they had lost. This year, again, Sidney Crosby's still hurt. He did manage to play a couple of games, but still hurt with a concussion. Chris Letang hurt with a concussion. The Penguins have lost more man games to injury than any other team in the league this year, and by a wide margin. The next team, I believe, was Montreal, and it's not even close. The Penguins still, though, are playing very well. Again, I previously said that Malkin or Crosby are their two best players. I have to go back on that. I believe Marc-Andre Fleury is their best player. I think he's the best goalie in the league, the best goalie since Marty Brodeur. and who knows, may catch him someday. I think that he's carrying the Penguins, although if they play the way they are now, the way Malkin's been playing for the last few games, I think they have a great chance to win the Stanley Cup. Personally, I believe they're the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. And if Crosby should come back healthy, Chris Letang should come back healthy, that's just going to make it all the better. They can start playing in their parade in June right now. Jim?
I agree with you, Magic Mike. I think that it's a shame that the fans are being robbed of Sidney Crosby right now. The concussions. This is maybe the hardest working young man that's come into the league, maybe in the history of the league, maybe since Gretzky, who was a very hard worker when he came into the league as well. But and I agree. Fleury's playing lights out. I think he's underappreciated a lot of times, and I think that if the Penguins can get healthy, they still got the best team in the NHL.
Yeah, I think if the defense is healthy, I think they can go far. Because even without Crosby, I think they've proven that they can, and you can really see when their defense is strong. The goals against are way down, but when they were off for a few weeks, it was tough, and then they had to score 4, 5, 6 goals. So hopefully they'll get healthy again, and hopefully Crosby can get back because he is the face of the NHL right now, and they could use that boost.
Well, I'm a big Penguin fan, as you know, and it's so disappointing to see a talented team that is head and shoulders above most of the league, and here they are injured, and they're still playing a high level of hockey. You have the goaltender, Fleury, so underappreciated. He's going to have 5 more games. He'll be 400 games in the NHL.
How old is he?
What, like 27? But he'll have 400 games. I mean, and here we are. He should be, like Mike's mentioning, in some of the top goaltenders in the NHL. His work ethic. Look at the flexibility that he has. Look at guys coming in on him. Sure, he lets a soft goal in once in a while, but he has 2 or 3 people where he can't see around him because some of these guys just come up from Wilkes-Barre. We had a whole defensive team that was up from there. We had 5 or 6 players out just on the defense. So, I mean, you have great guys, and it's so heartbreaking to see Sidney Crosby, who these guys really are warriors, hard-nosed, tough players. He can't come back. The rules have changed. The concussions are getting worse. Look how many teams have 2, 3, 4, 5 players with concussions. I mean, they have to come up with helmets, and that's my pet peeve since I've been on the show. And they are supposedly looking into somebody getting some type of helmet that can offer some type of protection for these guys. Because it's terrible. You're going to lose out, like you say, on a superstar not being able to see him play.
You mentioned the rule changes, and I believe the rule changes, even though they're designed to protect the players, and you have to do that, I believe the rule changes have actually hurt the Penguins this year. They are not nearly as physical as they have been. Guys like Matt Cook in particular, who has to be very careful because the league is looking to suspend him or maybe even terminate his career. But these guys are not as physical as they have been in previous seasons, and it's hurting the Penguins a little bit. I still believe they're the best team, but they're not playing quite the way that they used to on defense. I still have, personally, I believe, the best penalty killing unit in the league. But guys like Matt Cook and Chris Kunitz and Craig Adams that are usually pretty good bangers have not been doing that quite as much this year. And of course, that's because of the rule changes. They have to be careful what they do because they don't want to get suspended or fined.
Well, you know what? You brought up Matt Cook. Here's a guy that changed his style of play, and guys have teed off on him. The referees swallowed their whistle. And I hate to see that because, God rest my dad's soul, he was a referee, and he would say, being critical of things, these referees don't call them as they see them. They're prejudiced against certain guys. They have opinions, and you have to leave that outside the door. These guys have swallowed that whistle. Matt Cook got killed a couple times, and then he gets hit for something, a ticky-tacky penalty. I mean, what's he have, 12, 14 minutes of penalties? To go from what he did to what he is now, and he's still playing a nice defensive game. And sure, he doesn't get to hit the guys like he would because we're all Pittsburgh guys. We're used to our defensive team in football and in hockey where they intimidate you. and everybody knows you start hearing footsteps. On the ice, you start seeing a shadow coming at you. Maybe you don't go after the puck, or you get those little alligator arms, and you don't reach for things. So, I mean, that's what you do lose out, like Mike's insinuating there. And the rule changes have hurt us to that point. But in spite of that, look at with Bilesma's leadership, where I have to give, my hat goes off to him also this year, as one of the guys that's kept the team together. Look at the personalities you have coming in locker rooms. And you know yourself, a guy can say, well, you know, this isn't right how I'm playing. He's moving people around all the time, and they're doing well at it, which is great.
Was your dad a basketball referee?
Basketball and some baseball.
Did he make a lot of money fixing games like the NBA referee?
You know what? I can show you. I have a scrapbook. He refereed games for $6, $8, and he was as honest as a day come. And he was shocked when that referee in the NBA took all that money to do that, because he goes, boy, I wish I would have been smart like that. Instead, he was taking his poor son to see 5th and Shenley for the championship game in the 60s. But that's the type of guy he was.
Hey,
straight shooter. You'd have loved the guy.
Speaking of another all-white team, we got to give congratulations to the Dallas Mavericks. Magic Mike predicted that they would win in the NBA last year, although I thought that he was just picking the team with the most white players. And,
he didn't know me at the time. That's my friend. Mark Cuban's my friend.
But the Dallas Mavericks did a great job last year with an NBA title.
You know damn well I had no idea who the Dallas Mavericks were.
Didn't they
They
get
were all white or not.
Didn't they get a guy named Odom? Isn't there a guy named Odom on the team now, or somebody that they just got? It was a good 6 man.
When they can get Kim Kardashian to move to Dallas, then I'll tune into the game.
Well, did you see her ex-husband just had 21 points, 16 rebounds, and they were booing him like crazy.
Yeah, 35,000 boos.
That was unbelievable. So what? The guy got caught up in reality TV.
$17 million wedding. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No. Plus whatever fringe benefits there, too. So.
Well, I wish they called me to be the photographer.
Oh, we're going off subject there.
Is it TMZ or what?
We cover everything here.
Well, all right, guys, when you do a show like this, it's usually a lot of fun, and you have a blast, you laugh a lot. But every once in a while, you have to do something kind of distasteful. So we do kind of have to talk about the Pirates. Well, you know what? Actually, it started out pretty good this year. The Pirates were in first place after the All-Star game.
Wow.
For the first time since as long as I can remember. They were playing well. They were overusing their pitchers. They were doing okay. The bats were doing pretty much nothing all year. But the pitchers were carrying them. And they were in first place after the All-Star game. And it seemed like the catalyst that turned them around was a 19-inning game in Atlanta with an absolutely horrible call at the plate that gave Atlanta the win after 19 long, hard innings that the Pirates played nice baseball. But that seemed like it totally destroyed them because they won 19. They went 19-42 after that, and once again finished under 500 by a long way. They ended up 72-90, and they were in first place alone by a couple of games. They were up. They were there, and in addition to the fact that they went on a 10-game losing streak right about the same time that Milwaukee went on a 10-game winning streak that pretty much ended their season. They've got some decent players. Joe Hanrahan is probably a reliever, a number one reliever on almost every team in the league, with a few exceptions. But other than him, there's nobody on the Pittsburgh Pirates that starts anywhere else. Andrew McCutchen, nice player. Neil Walker, nice player. But they're not starting players anywhere else in the league. They just brought, in order to boost them up, they brought back Nate McLeod. Are you serious? I mean, what do you expect him to do for you? He's not the answer. I don't know that he can even be a starter on this team. But that's what they picked up to fix it. I don't understand what they're doing, but maybe you guys can help me out a little bit.
Hey, Mike, I think the Pirates will be happy to go 72-90 this year. What do you think?
Well, and that's the kind of mindset we're all in. That's the problem. We're going to be,
Number
boy, I
20.
wonder if they can go 30 and 132 this year. Hey,
Well, no, we do have a streak. It's 19 years, so we're working on 20.
we got to get to the
But here, you have
20
to go,
years. Right.
again, my theme has been today, the leadership. And the leadership is the ownership called the Nuttings. And they just raised ticket prices because we had 100 games that we played well. So if that's why you can get an increase, so what if you haven't had an increase in years? That's so disrespectful to the people of Pittsburgh who are used to championship play.
But people are still going.
Because it's a beautiful venue.
Exactly.
People like it.
Right.
You can't help yourself. It's a beautiful place to go. It's a
it's-
beautiful field. And some of the teams have Hall of Famers on them, and it's great to watch some of these Hall of Fame players come in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to have the same old, I call it the SOB, same old Bucks.
Yeah.
Did they raise the price in the all-you-can-eat section?
No,
I'm
they
pretty
lowered
partial
it.
to the all-you-can-eat
They lowered
seats.
it because there'll be a couple guys that'll come in
You
there.
have to pay them back.
The all-you-can-eat seat's a pretty good deal, actually, especially because there's a bench right outside of it where you don't even have to watch the game. You can just sit at that bench and eat.
I have a personal question. Have you ever done that, Mike?
A couple of times this year. I actually went down with a big sign
wanted
that
to
said
talk about
bandwagon for sale. It was only used once and not for very long. Pirates, they're one of the things that has bugged me about the Pirates for 10 of the last 19 years is the fact that they come out wanting to be 500 every year. Well, you know what? If your goal is to win the Super Bowl and you fall short, well, you might still have had a pretty good season. If your goal was to win the Stanley Cup and you get knocked out in the second or third round of the playoffs, you still had a pretty good season. If your goal was to go 500 and you fall short of that, you're a loser because you're under 500, and it's unbelievable. But that's what they talk about every year. We can make it to 500 this year.
Well, they're still making money.
Well, they are
That's
still
what it
making
all
money,
boils
but you know
down
what?
to.
The only reason they're making
Even
money,
if it's,
Luxury.
10 grand. I mean,
the only reason they're making money is because of the luxury tax.
Right.
Because they underspend every year, and they get that big money from the teams that overspend every year. Well, in the next collective bargaining agreement, don't be surprised if the luxury tax goes away. And when it does, Nutting will sell that team to me for the money I have in my pocket right now, because he won't be making that money anymore.
can you get a 30 home run hitter? Just one, please, when you buy the team?
That's
That's all I'm asking for.
On that Pirates subject, they already did change with the ownership on how it's going to work. You can't spend all that money in the minor leagues because that's what they were doing. They were hiding that money. So now they can't just pick a player who's supposedly going to sign with them who does nothing but blow out his arm. But then I got to interrupt the program here. My biggest fan, Hope, she just gave us the score in the Penguin game. They're losing by 1 goal right now. End of the first period. So
Keep hope alive.
she gave her report there.
that's easy there.
But she didn't give us the pit basketball like I asked. So
Hey, can we get Brian Giles to come back? Where is he at? Is he still playing?
he might be available.
He has 30
Do we have
home runs
anybody
right
else that's washed up, like Pujols,
We'll get them
Ryan
if
Howard,
they are.
or
We'll get them.
any of those guys? What about Prince
Operation,
Fiedler?
Operation
Well,
Shutdown.
I
Can we
think-
get anybody
I
else?
think-
No,
Yes.
they're not going to get Prince Fielder, and they're not going to get Pujols. They might get Joe Randa if they can find him. But
As a coach,
manager. That's the kind of player that they sign. That's what they go
I
out
agree
and look
with
for. Okay?
I'm
They
a disgruntled
Jim, you know
Pirate
what?
fan.
When they signed Jeremy Burnett years ago, Jim and I did a different show called Steel City Sports World, and the day that they signed him, we had a show, and I told them, you know what, the reason they got Jeremy Burnett's first, the Pirates are never going to outbid anybody. So if they got Jeremy Burnett's, it's because they know something that the rest of the league doesn't know, or the rest of the league knows something that they don't know. And you know what? And it's a pretty fair bet that the rest of the league knows something that they don't know.
You're exactly right. Just look at Matt Morris. Matt Morris, who I liked as a pitcher in his prime. Look when we got him at the end of his career. Millions. How many millions did they spend on him here? So, I mean, they have a history, and again, it's the ownership. It's a shame that they still keep the Nutting family and let them own a baseball team like that. There should be something done like that.
Like everybody should wear Phillies hats.
Not the Phillies hats. How about you don't go to the game?
That won't happen.
And as we kind of wrap up the last couple minutes, we should mention the Heisman Trophy winner from last year and who's going to be NFL Rookie of the Year, Cam Newton. Cam Newton's going to win NFL Rookie of the Year because Oakland won't play Terrell Pryor.
I was
that's
wondering.
absolutely right.
I was wondering how you were going to mention Terrell Pryor out of that. I couldn't figure it out.
mentioned Terrell Pryor in Wisconsin.
Terrell would have given him a run. Huh?
That's sort of like my cousin with the Pitt hockey team on Friday. Call in 412-831-3304.
All right, guys. We are winding down. Let's finish out like this. Al, what do you think's the top sports story in Pittsburgh sports this year?
The top sport? Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
Well, my thing is the Penn State scandal. That just blew me away because this is going to be so huge. You have politicians, you have sheriffs, you have state police, and you have a university that rakes in $70 million plus a year. And it took down a legend who I had respect for, Joe Paterno, and I'm still holding out that he's not going to be found guilty of anything here, and just the people's lives that he made a difference in. So I think that will be the biggest sports story, bar none.
Mike?
I think it's trying to find out which channel the Pittsburgh Passion's on.
All right, girls.
No, it would be hard to go against the Crosby situation. I mean, it's we're entering into a situation here where this guy's future could be at stake, his health, and obviously his playing career. So I think the next few weeks are going to be telling. Hopefully he can come back and play. But what if he does get hit again? Even if it's a minor hit, even if a minor hit injures him. I mean, that's the tough thing about this. So I think with Crosby and even Letang, I mean, these concussions need to get under control. Maybe the NHL should talk to the NFL and talk about new helmets. But the NFL helmets, I think they've gotten worse. So what do you do with concussions? So hopefully we can make the players safe and we can see Sidney come back soon. But I think that is the number one story.
Jim?
Biggest story is a parade for Hines Ward for beating a 50-year-old karate kid in Dancing with the Stars. Hines wasn't no good after that because he's so jealous of Kim Johnson. He can't focus every time he sees her on TV dancing with somebody else. That's the biggest story.
Well, like I said, sometimes you have to do something that's absolutely distasteful when you do a show like this. So I have to agree with Al. I think probably the biggest story was definitely the Penn State scandal. Not necessarily because it was actually that biggest story. That kind of thing does happen around. Jerry Sandusky is like subhuman. What he's done, he certainly should go to jail for, and I'm sure he will. But the way the media blows it out of proportion, the way the media couldn't wait to jump on Joe Paterno and tear him apart. Like I've said a million times, there's nothing worse than a reporter with nothing to write. And your local guys who've been dying to get something bad to write about Joe Paterno, we're all over it, even though he had nothing to do with it. And as far as what they say, he reported the incident to his superiors, which is what you're supposed to do. But anyway, that's our year in review show. Thanks for tuning in. For Jim, Mike, and Al, and myself, we wish you a very happy new year, and we'll see you next year, next week, next Tuesday.